Welcome to What's Going On, the weekly podcast and videocast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota.
All right. Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of What's Going On. I'm Pastor Katie here at First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota, and I'm glad you could join me for this episode. Today, I have with me a very special guest, someone who is not new to the podcast. You've been on before, but it's been a minute since we've had.
Yeah, it has. I was trying to remember the last time that I participated in it, and I couldn't. So it's been a while since I've been on, which is okay. That's okay.
And I was thinking the whole drive over to work today, how to introduce you. And so this is what I landed on, and see if you like it. This is Tiffany Beste. She is our staff person extraordinaire. Because
no, I'm not sure I like that. No.
Yeah. Well, I can't spell it, but I like it. She is in charge of our children and youth ministry, as well as our technology needs for the church. That means not only recruiting our people that deal with technology, but also knowing what we have and also continuing to improve, because technology just moves at a rapid pace, and it's been
always changing.
It is, and it's been a real big need in the church. And so I'm glad that you are wearing all of those hats for us.
I enjoy it. It's good.
So I invited Tiffany today because we went to the Leadership Institute a couple of weeks ago. And so we're going to spend some time later in this episode really diving into what we learned. But before we do that, there's so much happening in the life of the church, and we want to kind of let you know about those things before we get into Leadership Institute stuff. And so I know that Tiffany has a lot that she wants to talk about, so I'm going to let her do that.
Sure. Well, so I just asked kind of Katie if I would have a minute to update a little bit on what's happened with our children and our youth recently here, just because it has been a while since we've touched on that. So we kicked off our children and youth program the same week that school started. So we are about 8 weeks in right now. And that's gone really well. We had, some adjustments that we had to make when we added the service into Wednesday evenings, but I think our schedule that got put together from that has worked out well. As far as our kids go, we have our 605, which is kind of interesting that we're still calling it that, but we still live in South Dakota and we're still here at 605. So we continue to refer to it as that, but that's our preschool through fifth graders. And they're coming here typically eating supper, before 605 is getting started. Some of our 605 kids are involved in our Bells program, which is running from 4:45 to 5:15. We had an opportunity to hear them play for the first time last night, and that was wonderful to have them back in our services with us. The 605 program runs from 5:30 to 6:10. And this year I kind of started with a little bit of a long unit with them, which is the 7 I am statements of Jesus. And that was kind of new to us. We've hit on a lot of the normal stories, Noah and the ark and Jonah and the whale and all the different things. And I thought this was just sort of a different direction to get us started. And that's actually going to lead us right up until Trunk or Treat, which we have coming up here in a couple of weeks on October 26th. That night is going to look a little bit different in that we're going to flip-flop our 605 times and our church service times. So church will run from 5:30 to 6:15, and then Trunk or Treat will be 6:30 to 7:15. So the kids are here anyways during those times. We're just going to kind of flip-flop the way that looks. And so we're excited about that. The kids are excited about it. We've been talking to them about that. And parents out there, if you're wondering exactly what that looks like, kids can show up at church in their costumes if they want to do so. We would be excited to have them here that way. They can come eat supper in their costumes. If there's things that you want to add on later, whether it be masks or makeup or whatever the accessories might be, you can do that right before they go out to trick or treat. But we would encourage them to bring a bucket or a bag or a pail of some sort to collect their candy in. Our youth and our congregation members and members from UCC and Trinity Lutheran are going to be joining us as well that evening. We've kind of co-opted a little bit with them this fall for our youth group to kind of bring bigger groups of kids together, and that's gone really well too. But they're going to be joining us for Trunk or Treat, bringing vehicles and bringing their candy as well. So when our kids get done with church service, that Wednesday. We're going to keep them upstairs for a little bit to do some fun music. Sarah has some karaoke options in mind for that evening for a short little bit, some Halloween music type of things, so that people can go get their cars ready in the parking lot and go get those prepared. And then our kids will come out at about 6:30 and do our annual trunk or treat. We are so looking forward to it and really hoping that our weather is nice for that evening. So maybe for the next couple of weeks here, say some prayers that we can have a beautiful evening outside. It's always gone over well, but it's really fun when we get to do that outside.
Yeah.
And then
I'm super
after,
excited.
yeah, I know. And the kids are too, and our youth are too, which I think is the best part, that they want to get dressed up just as much as the kids do and do their decorating.
Well,
So,
and our confirmation class is going to be doing a vehicle, and I've already been working on my plans. I always have these grand visions for how I want my vehicle to look, and it never looks like how I imagine it, but I've got a theme this year. I've been scouring Yankton. Benjamin and I were hunting for our items yesterday, and so
yep.
I am excited.
Yeah. And like I said, I just feel like this year we've kind of been in the swing of things, in our normal swing of things, what we're going to be doing. And I'm just hopeful that our trunk or treat can have a great evening to look the way that we want it to look. So everyone's pretty excited about that. And again, that's open to everyone. Like, we want our congregation members to come and bring a vehicle and decorate their trunk however they want. Maybe it's just one pumpkin. That's great. And then just to bring whatever candy, trinkets, toys, whatever they might want to give out to the kids. And then it's kind of crazy to think about, but right after trunk or treat, we start to prepare for our Christmas program. Yeah. So the following Wednesday, we will start having our 4th and 5th graders looking over whatever skit we are going to go with for our Christmas program. And then our little kids start to practice their songs. And our big kids, our youth kids, we've got a song in mind that we want them to sing, and they'll lead the service that day. So our Christmas program, just to put it on your calendars, is going to be Sunday, December 11th, during our regular service time. But it always goes so fast after Halloween up to that program. So we will start to prepare for that. So we've had about 30 kids coming for 605, and we hope that will continue as we do start to prepare for the Christmas program, just because it's nice kind of have all the kids ready to go for that when that does happen. Along with trunk or treat, I do want to throw out too, we had a mom's night out back in August, and we said we wanted to touch base with those moms again this fall. So following trunk or treat that evening, we're going to do a ladies' night out, and the place is yet to be determined, but moms and ladies, send your kids and your husbands home after trunk or treat. And we look forward to getting to spend some time with the women of this church and reconnect again and just kind of see how everybody's falls have been going. So put that on your calendars as well. Following trunk or treat, the women of the church will be going out and just enjoying each other's company that evening as well too.
Yeah, the dad can put the kids to bed.
Yep. Dads can go home and put the kids to bed after we amp them up on all the sugar from the evening. We'll put them in charge.
We really thought this through.
Right, we did.
We're like,
we're doing a favor to the
time
moms
to do
this. Youth has also been going well. I am super excited about where our youth group is at. We have almost 20 kids coming every night after church. They're sticking around and staying for just a chance to connect with one another. I love that the kids that are showing up, we've got a wide variety of kids that come into our youth group, and they all connect so well while they're here, and they all know that they're welcome and it's a comfortable place for them to be. And it's worked out well. We kind of have an opportunity to work with just our high school kids while our middle school kids are at confirmation, and right now they're playing Agape Bells, and there's something for everybody at this point, which is great. And we're keeping them involved. We've got them coming in to clean up for Soup Kitchen next Tuesday, October 18th. So again, just another little shout out for Soup Kitchen. That starts at 4:30 and goes till 7. Yeah. But our youth are invited to come and eat. And then after they've eaten, to stay and help clean up for that. Because we've talked a little bit here about giving, and part of what our youth can give is their time. And so we had a little lesson on that last night. And also giving to trunk or treat and giving to our kids of our church. So they're in charge, like I said, of putting their vehicles together and bringing some candy and spending that hour that Wednesday with our kids, and we know how much our little kids look up to our big kids. So they're looking forward to that, and that will be a good couple of things that they can do to give back to our church. And then looking down the road, we also have our DAC Youth Conference coming up November 11th through the 13th. As of right now, we have 11 kids signed up to go up to that. So super excited about that. We went up last year. The weather didn't cooperate all that well with us, but we're hoping again that the weather will this year and they can get the full experience of DAC Youth. So again, that's just something that we have on our radar and that we're looking forward to, and having the 11 kids at this point signed up to go up is awesome. We're super excited about, like I said, about what we're doing with them. So that's kind of just a quick update on where we are with our children and youth. Again, if you ever have any questions about what we're doing with them, I would be more than happy to answer those. And if you're ever looking at something that you can help participate with on Wednesday nights, we got a lot going on, and we kind of start at 5 and we go till 8:30, and there's something for everyone, and whether it's helping with the kids or helping with the meal or helping with the service or whatever it might be, if you're wanting to participate in the things that are going on here at church and you have Wednesday evenings available, we will find something for you to do, because there's always somewhere that you can help and something that fits your gifts and your talents. So just give us a call, let us know that you want to help, and we'll find a place for you.
And I'm going to give a little shout out in particular for Wednesday nights. We are in need of ushers. And there is a sign up sheet in the lounge to sign up for Wednesday night ushers. The Sunday usher sign up sheet is completely full. But the Wednesday is completely empty. And so if that is something that you're like, I could probably do that, let us know and we will give you the very quick training that it takes, because we've really kind of pared down the responsibilities for our ushers to make it a simple job, but it's still a job that needs to get done. And so I'm just going to tack that on as a very specific, very immediate need that we have right now.
And really, like you said, pretty simple, like as far as what we need to have those people do each night. It takes you being here and a short little checklist of the things that you can help us with. And if you're here on a Wednesday, that would be a great area of need for us right now.
Absolutely. Awesome. Tiffany, it's so incredible to hear you talk about what's going on with our children and our youth. And I just want to lift up, this is incredible, the amount of involvement that we have, especially with our youth. You've done a great job of really building up that program. We've got kids that are just super committed and super excited about being here and getting involved and having them go and serve, but also go to things like DAC Youth where they get to meet other kids and from other towns who are also committed Christians. And it's just incredible. It makes me super.
It's
super
way
happy.
fun. And we had a parent show up last week just to kind of see what was happening, which is kind of what I've asked, just come see what we're doing. And that's great. If you want to just kind of show up and take a look at what we're doing with zero expectations of doing something, we would love to have you come and do that. And truly, I think I say it a lot, but our kids are awesome. They are such a great group of kids. I don't want to pick my favorite area of what I do, but that 1 hour or hour and a half of our youth group every week is probably one of my top favorite things that I do every week, just because of that group of kids. So come in, say hi, and take a look at the things that are happening.
Yeah. Awesome. Should we dive into Leadership Institute a little bit? So the first thing I want, if you are listening to this podcast, one of the things you're missing right now, and you might want to jump over to YouTube to watch it, but Tiffany and I are sporting our Leadership Institute
we got a
t-shirt here. Yeah.
Boundless.
It's the first year that I've gotten a t-shirt. I don't
like
remember.
I think they need to keep those coming back.
Yeah. We were just having a big discussion though about the color of it and whether or not it was a good color for me. It's clearly a good color for Tiffany. But yeah, part of the Leadership Institute is the work of the Church of the Resurrection in Leawood, Kansas, just a suburb of Kansas City. And what they do is it's the largest United Methodist church in the country, and they believe in sharing what they do. They believe in sharing resources and sharing expertise and sharing what is working for them. And so that's how Leadership Institute got started, and that's been going now for many years. And so this is the second year in a row that Tiffany and I have gone together. And she's just a really fun travel partner. We had a really fun incident that happened with where we were staying that had zero water. And so the first night we arrived there, we ended up having to get a motel like 10:30 at night, but we survived.
Yep, I said to Pastor Katie, either we have no water or this house has no water pressure, because when we first got there, there was a trickle. It was coming out.
Yeah.
I was like,
and you were like concerned about it, and I'm just like, I'm not gonna worry about that right now. And then when I went to go turn the water on, there was none, and I'm like, oh, this is a problem. I would have just
right.
dealt with it.
We pivoted. That's one of Katie and my favorite word, pivot.
Yes, pivot.
So we did that, and it was good.
We are experts at pivoting.
We've got it down.
Yeah. Yes. So one of the many benefits of Leadership Institute is going, they bring in great, incredible speakers, nationally known speakers. And so we have that, we have worship time together, and then we also have workshops and breakout sessions that we can choose to do. And so Tiffany and I went to different breakout sessions. We did the pre-institute. And so we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that we gathered from that. But I would say, Tiffany, what were kind of overall impressions before we kind of get into the weeds, overall impressions of this year's Institute, things like big picture things that you want to take away?
The last 2 years having gone and not really having any idea what to expect prior to going, it's really amazing. Like, it's really amazing, one, to see what the UMC church down there, the Resurrection, is capable of doing, and the number of people that they have involved. And you really have to keep it in perspective. Like, this is Kansas City, it's not Yankton. But I think, like, really it's 100 times what our church is, almost, because didn't he say 32,000 members between their 6 campuses?
Right.
So I don't know if we have 300 on our registry or what our number is, but like, it's much bigger than what we do. But at the same time, some of the takeaways that I get going to the sessions that I go to is that we're doing a lot of what they do there, just on a much smaller scale. And so, when I go to the kids sessions, I see these pictures, these group pictures of kids with 300 kids in their group, and ours have 50. But it's still like, when you talk, they ran us through like a VBS program, and I'm like, yeah, like the things that they're doing there look a lot like the things that we're doing at our VBS, which is great. It reinforces for me, like, we're on the right page, we're doing the right things. It's just, theirs always seems grander, but that's just what it is. And I look at, if you ever have an opportunity to go to church, and I know while Katie and I were down there, we got a text from a family that had just been to church at the Resurrection. Like, it's amazing. It's amazing to look around at their building and their capabilities, and like their choir, their orchestra, their praise team, the stained glass window, which is in itself amazing. It's really cool just to go down there and see this huge, large campus and what it is, but also be able to say, we're right there. Like we're doing a lot of those same things. We're just simply smaller, and that's okay. That's not something that we can control. So, and it's always great with their speakers to be like, they bring a message that you're like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like, I get it. And they put statistics together for you that you're like, okay, so we're not the only ones in this boat. Like everybody's feeling the same things and having the same challenges and struggles, but yet having the good successes that they're seeing too. So it's an awesome experience. And it just makes you leave there going, okay, we're doing this. We're fighting the good fight. We're moving forward. We're taking it. So it's really good. It's enjoyable.
Yeah, I would say the same types of things, of just the scale of things is kind of always awe-inspiring. And you can take it one way of like, oh my gosh, like, we're so small compared to this. But one of the things that helped me early on in going to Leadership Institute when I was a youth pastor was they gave us, their youth group might be 200 to 300 kids, but they're like, but this is 20% of the kids that could be here. And I remember going home and figuring out what the percentage of the kids that were connected to the church versus the ones I had coming. And I realized that I had a higher percentage at that point coming than what Church of the Resurrection did, even though theirs was on such a larger scale. And I was like, well, maybe I'm doing something right then.
So well, and they talked about in one of the groups that I went to, how after COVID, their youth really had kind of fallen apart, like completely, and how they were in this rebuilding phase, and how we I feel like we are, but yet I also feel really good about the numbers that we have coming and the kids that we have coming. So it was also nice to hear like COVID impacted everybody, and to hear that when they started trying to reconnect with their youth, kids weren't coming back. And so it's taken a lot of work to, especially when you talk about, like they have the 6 different campuses. So I almost like to compare us to one of their smaller campuses. So when they have 3 kids that show up post-COVID, I'm like, okay, all right. Like we have 8. And so like you said, it's like we're coming, and the comparisons are still there regardless of what those numbers might look like.
Yeah. So the big things that is inspiring, and like there's just creativity, and I've always found that going there gets my like juices going of like, oh, we could be doing this, we could be, so like I always come away with a lot of like work for myself, honestly, but like exciting things to do,
right. But also having to decipher, like, we can't, it's a lot to take in 3 days, and you can't come back doing everything that you heard there. You have to take a couple of pieces and go, we're going to focus on this.
This is it. And then the other piece of like, just, we're not alone. So the Leadership Institute pulls from churches, and not just United Methodist churches. I mean, I met some really awesome Lutherans in Lincoln, Nebraska that were there, from all over the country. And part of it is getting to connect with other people and hearing, whatever we're dealing with, they're probably dealing with it as well, and then whatever successes we have, we also get to share that, and they get to share it with us. And there's a real communal sense, again, going back to one of the blessings of the United Methodist system is our connection, and that's one of the places that we experience it. So I think I want to dive right in with my favorite presenter speaker. First of all, my favorite moment was worship on Thursday night with the choir and the orchestra. They did like a mini concert, and
worship there is pretty amazing. Like it's just it's a big thing. Like it's you like I said, if you're ever in the Kansas City area, experience it.
It's worth making it. Yeah. So I just want to lift up like a thank you for blessing us with that, because that was really a cool experience. So. But my favorite speaker they had this year was an author. Let's see, I'm looking because I've got his book right in front of me. His name is Todd Bolsinger, and he is the Vice President for Vocation and Formation and teaches practical theology at Fuller Theological Seminary, which is in California. He is a Presbyterian, but we love him still. He has written a lot of books around Christian leadership. And one of the books, and I think kind of the main theme that I would say, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but we talked about it, that both Tiffany and I really latched on to, was from this book that he wrote called Canoeing the Mountains, Christian Leadership in Uncharted Territory. This book actually came out a few years ago. I remember first hearing about it in 2019. So again, this is pre-COVID. But so much of what he's
like he was predicting the future.
Well, it's kind of one of those things of like, prior to COVID, we thought, oh my gosh, like we're in uncharted territory. Things are changing so much, which they were. But once we've all gone through that change, now we're just like, oh, little did we know. We know. Didn't one of the speakers talk about how like we're living through like all of these major crises that in the last century, but like at the same time? She listed off like 4 different crisis years our world has been through, and they all like have come together recently in 1 year. In 1 year, or like in 2 years. So and so the the main image of this book, so Canoeing the Mountains, and it was a good part of his speech, I would say.
Yeah.
Speech, presentation, is about using Lewis and Clark of all people as an image, and you know, in Yankton, I just kind of feel like, well, that's
right. It hit home.
Yep. It hit home. Yeah.
Yep.
Lewis and Clark, you know, they thought that they were going to be able to canoe from where did they start?
Somewhere on the Mississippi.
Yeah. Somewhere
down
out
south.
We don't know.
We're not social studies majors.
No, we're not. And that wasn't the important part of the story.
No.
But they get to a point where they're gonna come up on mountains, and they think that they're like, oh, mountains, we can handle it. They knew the Appalachian Mountains, and they're like, that's no big deal. We'll get to the top of the mountain, and then we'll float on down to the Pacific Ocean. That they were gonna find the waterway through the United States, and so their whole group was set up for canoeing. Actually, they invented the canoe for this trip, and so everyone that's there, you know, their expertise is all in navigating waterways, and so they get their group up to this, gonna go over this pass, and they think, okay, and then, you know, we went uphill. It was hard, you know, but we were doing everything that we knew how to do, and we did it well. And then they thought it's going to be easy peasy, and what they found was the Rocky Mountains. And at that point, they had to shift their entire structure, because they were prepared to canoe. They were not prepared to mountain climb. And so Todd Bolsinger uses this imagery for leadership in uncharted territory, which, I mean, I think we can all say that's where we are in culture, in the church, in the world. Things have changed so quickly and so drastically that it is like we are now out of the river and on the mountain with paddles. And what do we do?
In our canoes.
In our canoes. And we just found that to be an incredibly apt image. And I want to share, there's well, Tiffany, I'm going to let you talk for a minute while I find what I want to share.
Sure. No, and I just, when he made that illustration, it really hit home, I think, for the both of us, that, you know, I am an educator, and Katie got her training to be a pastor. And, you know, we were trained years ago on what it would look like, what our world would look like, and how we would do it. And it was like these guys being trained to paddle their canoes up a river. And we were prepared for that. And we knew it would be hard and strenuous, but we knew we had the training and the skills to do it. And like she said, that book was written prior to COVID. Our world hit a place and a time that changed immensely from what we had been trained to do. And we're now at a place where we're having to rethink all the training that we would revert back to. And he made a comment somewhere in there of a simulation that somebody had a simulation training, and they said, why do you do this simulation? And because he said people will always revert back to their training. When you go into like crisis mode, you will always go back to your training. So whether you've been trained in CPR or first aid or teaching or being a pastor or whatever it might be, you go back to, okay, this is what I was taught to do. And we're at kind of sometimes feel like we're at that crisis mode and we're reverting back to our training, but our training didn't prepare us for this. And so we are having to truly rethink and retrain ourselves and process differently. What do we do now? How do we move forward? How do we go through these mountains? How do we go through this peak? And we're still kind of hoping that maybe we're going to find that water on the other side, but like, it's just different. And he made the comment about how he said her name the correct way, and we refer to her as Sacagawea. She became their leader and their guide because she had navigated that terrain before. And I don't know that we have anybody in our lives or in our world that has navigated this terrain before. But what we do know, and how he made the comparison, is that we have to start looking to each other and others on how we move forward. And what is that going to look like? And Pastor Katie and I might be able to come up with some solutions and ideas and thought process, but we need everybody helping us to do this, because we are as trained as everybody else in the church is, or in our world is, as to how we're going to move forward. Right. So it was just this really great, this really great comparison that it was like, oh my gosh, yes, yeah, we have landed. Our canoes and our paddles don't work anymore, and we're going to have to come up with some new apparatuses and skills that are going to help us to move forward. And really, we have to do that together. Yes. We have to do it as a church. We have to do it as leaders. We have to do it as volunteers. We have to do it together, because this is brand new to all of us. And when you do things together, it gets a lot easier, and you can use everybody's experience and knowledge to help find those new paths.
Yeah, so right along with that, I'm going to pull up a slide that he shared in his presentation here. And it says, it's a quote from Edwin Friedman. It says, when any relationship system is imaginatively gridlocked, it cannot get free simply through more thinking about the problem. Conceptually stuck systems cannot become unstuck simply by trying harder.
Paddling faster.
Yeah, paddling harder, doing the things that
isn't going to work on ground,
but maybe trying to do them better or more forcefully. That's not what's going to move us forward. For a fundamental reorientation to occur, a spirit of adventure, which optimizes, I mean, some of these words are really big here, serendipity, and which enables new perceptions beyond the control of our thinking processes, must happen first. Basically, in order for us to move forward as a church and to continue to pursue the goals that we have, we can't do things the way that they've always been done, or try to continue to refine the things that we've been doing. Right. Instead, we must try new things. And it's a scary thing, but you're probably going to hear us talk about, well, let's give that a try. Right. Let's give that a try. That's, I mean, that's where we were at with trying Wednesday night worship, was let's give it a try.
Give it a try. Nothing is out of the realm of something that might work.
Right. And again, like Tiffany said, I graduated seminary 8 years ago, which doesn't seem like it's that long ago, but the world in the last 8 years has changed dramatically. And while there are things that I bring to the table, and there's a lot that I offer, there's the biggest thing that I can offer as a leader right now is the willingness to be creative, the willingness to try, the willingness to go outside of what we've done before for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of our mission, for the sake of our goal. Because, you know, even as we look at Lewis and Clark, the goal never changed. The goal to reach the Pacific, to find that path, never changed, but the path itself, how to get there did. And I think that's where we are right now, is our mission and our purpose does not change. We are always here to make disciples for Jesus Christ and equip them for ministry in the world. But what we are realizing, and what churches are realizing across the board, is that the ways that it used to work to do that no longer works, or no longer is as effective as they once were. And again, it's not about that we have not done it well. I think we have. I think this church does whatever it chooses to do well. The reality is the world has changed and people have changed. And we have to be thinking creatively about how do we disciple in this world, in this culture, because it's not the same. It's not the same as it was 10 years ago. It's not the same as it was 20 years ago, you know, when we were kids, 50 years ago, 100 years ago. It's significantly different. So, and there are really times when we wish it wasn't, because we know what we should have done 20 years ago. But we don't know necessarily what's most effective.
Well, and I think I remember saying to Katie, it kind of reminded me of a video I would show my career explorations kids, that the job of a college or a university right now is to prepare kids for jobs that don't yet exist, or problems that don't yet exist. And that's very weird to think about it like that, but that's where we're at right now, is we are trying to problem solve for the problems that didn't exist 5 years ago, because they do right now. And so we just, as a church, we are going to continue to focus on that and figure out how we're going to move forward with with keeping some of those traditions that are really important to our church intact. And we're not going to completely deviate from the things that we have done that have worked well. We're just going to continue to add to our toolbox, as they would refer to it, so that we have more tools available to us to continue to move forward as a church and progress in the right direction.
And to utilize tools and opportunities that also didn't exist 5 to 10 years ago.
Correct.
And so one of the other speakers that really inspired me was Nona Jones. Nona Jones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
She works for Facebook. I didn't even know that Facebook had someone on staff that their job was to relate to churches, but I mean,
Her, like, I don't remember what her title was, but it was specifically in the realm of faith. Like that was her job, to promote a faithful space within Facebook. I didn't know that either. I was kind of floored by it.
Which again, like, kind of also alludes to the caliber of speakers that they have at the Leadership Institute.
Right.
But
yeah,
one of the things, we've been talking about, and it's been a conversation around the conference as well, is discipleship through social media. Really, COVID brought about the fact that, a lot of churches have had to go online, that we now live stream our services. And, and you all know, we went through some growing pains in that process. But one of the things that she mentioned, and also that I've been seeing in our conference as well, is creativity around how do we engage in discipleship practices using social media, which is a space and a place that people are, and it's a way to reach people. And instead of thinking of it primarily as a tool to get people into the church, to really start thinking about how do we use this as a tool to get discipleship and the message of Christ to people wherever they are. And so I was really, again, like, it's that shift of going from the paddling to the mountain, and how do we make that shift? And so one of the things I did, and I'm not proud of this, but I did it while she was speaking, because I was like, well, this is a great idea, and I want to do it before I forget about it.
Ran with it. Katie ran with it.
I ran with it.
Yeah.
I was sort of listening, but I had Tiffany there to help me.
I was absorbing, she was doing. Yep.
But you might have noticed, you might have been invited into already. If you're on Facebook, we now have an FUMC Online Facebook group associated with our page. And give me a second, I'm going to pull that up for you. It's not going to look exactly, because I'm the administrator, so my view of it always looks a little bit different. It's called Yankton FUMC Online. Right now we have 39 members. If you are connected to our church, invite people that that are connected to the church. I went through and just kind of just started, inviting who I had on my phone to do that. But it's a private group, but it's only meant to be private so that, not just any Joe Schmo can come in and be a troll, because this is really kind of meant to be another space like our worship services are, where we can share prayer requests, where we can have discussions, where we can celebrate one another. And so we want to make it sure that the people that are part of this group are people who are invested in our church, or at least interested in what we're talking about, what we're doing. And so you'll see on here, I posted, I like when I'm online, if I find our church members are doing cool things, I'm going to post it in our Facebook group so we can celebrate them. So a couple of our confirmation girls are in this photo. I caught some of our church, I'm pointing at my screen like people can see it. Let me do it this way. I caught some of our church members here doing a good act. They were working with Yankton Food for Thought. So you'll see the Walzers and Merle Larson in the back there doing that. And so, like, let's celebrate that. Here's our clean out challenge, which, by the way, you have until Sunday. I said Monday morning, but then I got told by someone who's very important that they would really appreciate it if we could have our donations by Sunday. And then you'll also see like different quotes or challenges. If you have something you want to put out to the group, you can also post in the group. It's not just me. So this one, you can see Carla Hummel posted. But we want you to be a part of that. That's, again, another, if you have prayer requests, if you have questions that you want to put out to the group, or wrestle with each other, this is the space to do that. That's what this is for. We're still going to have our page. Our page is really going to function as like, here's the stuff you need to know about what's going on. Here are events. This is going to be a little bit more
interactive.
Interactive. That's a great word for that.
We want people interacting in it with each other, being involved online with one another.
Right. Again, and invite people in. If you have someone in your life that you think these conversations would be good for them, maybe they're not connected to a church or nominally connected, but you feel like this is something for them, invite them in. You have the ability to do that. And again, we want you to do that. The reason we kept it private is really just to keep the trolls out, because nobody wants that. And when I say troll, I mean like someone who posts on things just to be provocative or contrary. They're no fun. So that was one of the immediate takeaways from that speaker that we started doing. We've got some other cool things coming up. I'm working on something. I went to this mentorship breakout session that really got my brain rolling, and so I've got something that I'm working on that we're going to be rolling out in the new year, and I'm super excited about it, but I'm just going to tease it like that. We also, yeah, in the theme of thinking about how to bring church to people where they are, we're also looking at something that might be launching around Christmas, so be on the lookout for that as well. Like I said,
well, and I think some of this too, I know it's not online stuff, and she was a great speaker about how important, and I don't know if you have a chance to bring up some of those statistics that she did share, kind of the percentages of things, but
I don't know if I don't.
We do, they talked about how a lot of us really want people in our church, that's where we look at how successful we're being, is how many people come into our building every week. And because of where our world is, that can't be our measuring point for everything. Yes, we're going to track it, and yes, we're going to have a really good gauge of that. But, you know, like our small groups that have started meeting, we did a dad's night out earlier. We did the mom's night out. We're doing the ladies' night out. We've had a group meeting on Tuesday evenings. They've done a little bit on Facebook where they've connected on Facebook, but they're also meeting outside of Facebook. That's kind of where our world is. And those small groups where you're actually making the connections, you're having an opportunity to have a 5 or 10 minute conversation with the people that are there. You're there because you all have something in common and you want to learn from one another. Coming into church on Sunday mornings and Wednesday evenings is great. That's a huge part of being an active member of your church as well. But we also can make those connections and continue to build our faith and build our community's faith when we meet outside of our church walls. So not only on an online platform like our Facebook groups, but in our small groups that are connecting as well. And really, she talked about, you can't focus so much on the number of people coming into your church, but you focus on the number of people that your faith is reaching. Yes. And whatever it takes to reach them, and spreading God's word in whatever it takes to spread that word, and in doing things in your community, like the food for thought. You know, we have church members that are going there to help with that. That's what's really important. That's what's going to spread that faith throughout our community. Yeah. Coming into our church building and learning is great, but being outside of our walls is as important. I mean, it really is. So it was just really good to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the small groups, it's the service. That's where discipleship happens. Worship is really meant to fill your cup, but those other things are going to be what develops you as a Christian and develops you as a disciple of Christ. And the mission and the doing is what we're called to do. You know, you develop who you are and who God meant you to be, but then you're also called to go and do. And those are the really important pieces that we want to lift up. And
that's stuff that the Resurrection is really great at. Like, yeah, they've got a lot of members, and of course a lot of people come into church on Sunday mornings, but their outreach is pretty phenomenal. And the different groups within Kansas City that they are meeting the needs of is when they show their little videos of their food truck, and of like, it's just really awesome to see their outreach programs and how important that is to their church as well. And yes, you need to be engaged with your local church here to know how they're reaching out and how you can help. So it goes both ways. You need to be here, you need to hear the information, but then you also have to go out into the community and reach out with our Loads of Love program, or, you know, the donations that we're bringing into church right now that are going to go to different entities in the community to help out those community members. Like, you have to be here to hear about it, but then you have to spread your wings and spread out amongst the community as well.
Yeah, partner in ministry.
Yeah.
That's exactly where the sermon is this week. Is it's not just about being a beneficiary, but partnering with God in the work of the kingdom. And that's exactly what we see in churches that are lively and thriving.
Yeah.
Thriving, yes.
Thriving.
Is there anything else that you'd like to lift up? Again, you went to a few different ones that I went to, because that's the best way to use
Yeah.
time and space. So,
I think if I could put an umbrella over the things I learned at the breakout sessions that I went to, one statement that was made that I really liked was, you have to vision your church as a crock pot, not an Instapot. And that one just connected a lot. Like, I've been in this position with technology and everything for about a year and a half. And nothing happened like that. Nothing did. But yet you can see it's working, it's growing, it's warming up, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So that little visual worked well for me. I also, at the kids one I went to, it's really great to see what they're doing there. But they did talk about how we as a society kind of moved away from kids going to church with their parents, and we started providing opportunities where kids were going here, parents were going here at the same time. But how even at the resurrection, they are starting to come back to kids and parents coming to a church service or services together, because it is so important for our kids to see their parents at church or being involved in church, going to Loads of Love, whatever it might be, giving back to their faith community. Your kids, my kids, our kids have to see that. Because if they don't see it, they don't know what their mom and dad are doing, even though they might be doing wonderful things. But if the kids aren't seeing it, they may not know what's happening.
and it's
So it
not
really
being
made
modeled
it
for them. Yeah.
yeah. And I think sometimes parents forget how much of a model we are for our kids, how much they're absorbing and how much they're taking in from us. And, I think about it from my perspective on a Wednesday night. If you walk into our church at 5 or 5:30 with your kid and you stay here with them, doing whatever it might be, helping in a classroom, helping in the kitchen, whatever it might be, that's really important. And it's hard to understand in our lives right now when we have things pulling us in 1,000 different directions. And I understand that, and I empathize with that a lot. But you have to remember each and every day that you are modeling what faith looks like to your child. And there was a speaker that hit hard on that, and how it can't be your kids' faith is really important and you're going to make sure they get here and that they're involved. You modeling it as well will have more of an impact on them than anything that they're learning, because they do what they see. And so if they don't see mom or dad being here, when they grow up and they're mom or dad, well, my mom and dad weren't active in the church, so I don't need to be. And you might be active, but if they're not seeing it, it's just hard for them to wrap their brains around it. Their brains are little and they're still learning. So I would say that was a big takeaway that I took as a parent, and I took as someone who really cares immensely about all of our kids here. You really need to be active with your kids. So come, watch, help, volunteer, supervise, whatever it might be, but be here. Like, make church a priority 1 hour a week, and just make it obvious to your kids that it is important, and that you want them to be able to continue that as they get older too.
And we're looking at ways to continue to equip you and give you tools so that you can continue to make faith integrated throughout your whole week. Again, that's part of, as we ponder what it looks like to canoe the mountains, that's one of the things that we're really wanting to focus on. And also know that as we invite our children into the whole worship service, we understand that children are wiggly. We understand that children are noisy. We understand, and we want them there. You are blessed, and I'm gonna frame it in this way very intentionally. You are blessed to have a church run by moms, run by people who understand and know and have been there or are currently there. whose children are the one making noise, know that it doesn't bother us. That for me, that's a joy to have our kids in service. I love having them there. One of the greatest compliments that I've received recently, and it's not even so much about me, but when we did last week, we put out the clothing challenge, and I told the kids during the children's sermon, we're going to do a challenge and it's for you too. And I had a mom tell me the next day that before the kids went to school, that they had gotten out a box and started putting their items in because they were so excited to be included in part of what was going on. Then they heard that this was for them too, that this was not just a grown-up thing, but it was something for them as well. That's what we want to see. Our kids are as valuable disciples of Jesus as we are, but we got to treat them that way. We got to invite them into that. We got to let them participate in all of it. And so again, when we went to Resurrection and heard that that is what they are seeing as well, it just reinforces what we have intuitively began to realize.
Well, and I would add that we have heard from people that have attended Wednesday night services that they really like the addition of the kids' energy.
Yeah.
And that energy includes the being wiggly in their pews and making sounds and noises, and that is what Wednesday night is. Wednesday nights is families are going to be here, kids are going to be here, and we love the adults that come that don't have any kids or family, but they're coming because they like that service. They like the energy that kids bring to it. And so you should never be feeling like your kids are this distraction, because that is what that service is. That's who it's intended for, are the busy families and kids. And if somebody wants to come to a more quiet, subdued service, Sundays is quieter, and it's quieter. Oh yeah, I'm not going to say quiet. I'm going to say quieter. And we still have kids there. We still have kids there on Sunday mornings.
Less wiggly service.
Less wiggly. But I just want parents to know that your kids are what make that service what it is. That's what it is for. So we have adults that are coming that are saying, I love having the kids here. Yes. So that we want your kids there too.
Yeah. Hear that loud and clear. We have an activity table. We're going to continue to expand and explore ways to be engaging with the kids. If you have ideas, let us know.
Yeah.
But know that is our intention, is that we want the family to be in worship together.
Yep.
That faith is something they're going to do together. That's important. That's a value. And that's what we care about. Man, I hope that you hear from this how valuable that time away was for us, and how encouraging, and it just gives us a lot to move and to have that energy and excitement and momentum moving forward. And so we just wanted to give you a little taste of what we experienced, and also know that if you are interested in going to that, let us know. I think I'd love to bring a whole carload of people. I'm probably not going to say that we'll bring the church van full of people, because I don't trust it going that far. But
let's not take the church van.
Yeah,
Aberdeen might be the max. Well, Aberdeen's almost as far. Just kidding, it's not, but it's kind of strangely close how Kansas City is.
I think Kansas City's closer than Bismarck, though.
I believe that you're correct.
Yeah.
And really, it's quite a nice trip to Kansas City. Every time I go there, I'm like, this might be my retirement village.
Yeah, Tiffany loves it there. And if you come with us, it might prompt us not to work as we're traveling, so that would be
right. We were actually doing some work on.
I literally had my computer out and we were editing and whatever. But
for real, I would agree with that. If you have an interest in going down to it, it is not just for clergy and staff. It is for any UMC member, and it's you get, I think there's there 4 kind of different not worship services, but where you get kind of that idea of what their worship service looks like.
Yeah.
Where either the praise team is singing or the orchestra is playing or the choir.
They had a group that sang one morning, and I thought, did I just turn on the Gaither hour? And you remember that guy? There was a guy that had a set of pipes on him.
Yes.
And then they were like, yeah, so he's a doctor. He just took the morning off from his practice to come sing for you. And I was like,
Thank you. It was great.
On
But again,
Broadway.
it's just showing you how like these people
Mhm.
who have jobs outside of the church, they come into Resurrection to offer their gifts and their talents, and it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
absolutely amazing.
A little bit of everything, a little bit of
Yep.
something for everybody. So
Yep.
well, Tiffany, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I hope that you guys are getting a lot out of this. If you have ideas for what we should be including on what's going on, you let me know. I'm I'm open for input. I will put it that way. And that goes for anything in the church. Or if you have questions about why we're doing what we're doing, the answer might be we're trying it out. Because again, we're doing everything we can. We're going to try to utilize every tool we can to accomplish the mission we have before us. So with that, again, thank you so much for joining me. And I hope to see you soon in worship or perhaps on our online group.
Yep.
Until next time, God bless.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of What's Going On, a podcast of First United Methodist Church in Yankton, South Dakota. We'd love to have you join us for worship on Wednesday nights at 6:15 or Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. You can also worship with us online at firstumcyankton.org or find us on YouTube.